The Dark Knight is directed by Christopher Nolan and is widely known to most people as probably the best superhero movie of all time. And because of that, and the fact that this film's been out for about 9 years now, I'm gonna be reviewing this film slightly differently because pretty much everyone in the world has seen this film at least once. And so this review will contain spoilers, and unlike my normal reviews in which I just say what I like and what I don't like about a film, I'm gonna be a little bit more in depth and sort of go in chronological order and say what I really like about The Dark Knight, because it is one of my favorite movies of all time. And so I'm going to be reviewing this film sort of knowing that you guys have watched it, because you probably have. And if you haven't watched The Dark Knight, then I'm not going to be like, you know, what are you doing? But please go watch the movie. It's The Dark Knight, so please go watch The Dark Knight. But if you have seen The Dark Knight, then you know how good it is, and that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about in this video. Starting off with the first scene, the opening scene, the bank heist with the Joker. This is a scene that is highly regarded as one of the best opening scenes ever. And I'm not surprised, because from the very beginning, we know that this film is going to be different. Nolan has said that he wanted to make a more realistic film this time around. He wanted something a little bit more grounded and less flashy compared to Batman Begins. And a lot of people say that this is the best Batman film and the best superhero film of all time. But I personally see this film as more of a crime drama and not a superhero film. I think if you watch this film as a superhero film, I think you're going to be kind of underwhelmed. But if you watch this film as a crime drama, it's fucking brilliant. I think that this film is, like I said, a crime drama that just happens to have superhero characters in it, because, in my opinion, the best Batman film is Batman Mask of the Phantasm, followed by Batman Begins. The Dark Knight's depiction of Gotham and the characters living in it is a lot less comic accurate, and I think a lot more what Nolan wanted, because Gotham in this film is basically Chicago, and I think that the depiction of the character of Batman and the Joker and everyone is a little bit different from what the comics are like, which is why I see this film more as a crime drama and not a superhero movie, as I've just said. Going back to the opening scene, I think that it is probably one of the most famous and best opening scenes of all time, and it's one of my personal favorites, because not only does this scene show us so much about the Joker without any dialogue whatsoever, without even seeing him until the end. This scene sets up the character of the Joker so well, and it's directed and cut together with so much tension and excitement, and obviously it all builds up to one of my favorite reveals of all time and one of my favorite movie lines of all time.
What do you believe in, huh? What do you believe in?
I believe whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you stranger.
And from that scene alone, we know that we are in for an amazing film. I remember seeing that scene for the first time ever when I first saw The Dark Knight, and I was just blown away, and it was so unexpected and so unpredictable, just like the character of the Joker, who, by the way, I'm going to talk about Heath Ledger now. His performance, I think, is widely known as one of the best performances of all time. I love it, but personally my favorite Joker is Mark Hamill's Joker, the animated series. But I do love Heath Ledger, and I'm going to talk about him a lot more as we go along, but I do love his performance so much. Then we get to see Batman for the first time in the film, and a lot of people have actually said this, but I'm going to say it again. I really like the fact that they explained why Batman changed his suit. In most superhero movies, you know, from number 1 to number 2, the character changes his costume or his outfit or whatever for no reason, and I like how they explained it in the movie, and obviously we see why in this scene. And I said this in my Batman Begins review, that one of the things I didn't like about the film was the fact that the action was a little bit choppy, and the editing for the action and stuff like that felt a bit underwhelming. It does improve in this film, but it is still kind of upsetting to me to see Batman, who is an incredible hand-to-hand combat fighter in the comics and in Batman v Superman, and he's an incredible badass, and literally when you see him for the first time fighting these thugs, he just does this. It is annoying. That's probably my least favorite part of what is one of my favorite films of all time. But it has improved because there's no shaky cam or anything. And obviously in this scene, you get this bit.
That is sick.
Also, I like how Scarecrow makes an appearance. You know, he doesn't have to, but Cillian Murphy was nice enough to, you know, come along and have a little bit of a cameo, and I respect him for that, and also it's just nice continuity. Also, Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent, or Two-Face, he was so good in this film, And I know a lot of people say Heath Ledger is great in this film, and so Christian Bale, but Aaron Eckhart is such an underrated part of this film because he's amazing. I just loved seeing this character who's so pure and so good, and seeing him being corrupted and seeing his descent into darkness. And obviously we have that scene in the restaurant where Harvey Dent says one of the most iconic lines ever.
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
And quickly, one thing about the restaurant scene, there's one character moment in that scene that I really like, and people don't really talk about that moment, and it's this.
So let's put a couple tables together.
I'm not sure that they'll let us.
Oh, they should. I own the place.
I think that's really funny and a good depiction of the character of Bruce Wayne. And speaking of Aaron Eckhart as Two-Face, I think that this is when superhero films started to think that it was smart to have a lot of villains in a movie, because this film obviously has the Joker and Harvey Dent and obviously all the crime bosses and stuff. And I think certain superhero films out there are definitely guilty of just being like, you know, I think, you know, it's a good idea to have a fuckload of villains and not flesh them out at all. Yeah. Amazing Spider-Man 2. So many superhero films nowadays learn the wrong lessons from The Dark Knight. One of the main reasons that Joker and Harvey Dent and so many villains actually works is because they take their time to flesh them out. I mean, this film is like 2.5 hours long, so you get to know these characters and you get to know their motivations, you get to know why they're doing what they're doing, and because of that they feel like actual good villains. And even though you don't agree with what they're doing, you understand why. And that's something that most superhero films don't do with their villains, and that's so annoying. Now, I said in my review for The Prestige that Nolan is really good at intercutting and setting up certain events, and that is very evident in this film when there's the party scene and the Joker comes to try and get Harvey Dent. You know who he's targeting, and Nolan edits these moments in a really interesting way. He sets them all up and then he shows exactly who the targets are, and he shows them being taken out by the Joker. And obviously all this leads up to the Joker's appearance at the party, his first meeting with Batman, which is, by the way, incredibly iconic. And also one of my favorite moments in this scene is when Batman just randomly knocks out Harvey Dent.
He's not Wayne, the guy's a complete...
What are you doing?
Obviously in this scene you also get a hint, or maybe a false hint, at Heath Ledger's Joker's origin. And a lot of people have been making up fan theories and all that stuff about where he's from, and what, you know, some people have been saying that he's like a Marine who suffers from PTSD and stuff. You know, for me, I prefer not really knowing the origin of the Joker. I do think that it is best left in ambiguity because it just makes the character so much more mysterious and so much like this unpredictable wild card force of nature that he's meant to be.
About a magic trick. I'm gonna make this pencil disappear. It's gone.
Also, not many people talk about this, but the character of Coleman Reese, who I feel was kind of there as a plot device.
Let me get this straight. You think that your client, one of the wealthiest, most powerful men in the world, is secretly a vigilante who spends his nights beating criminals to a pulp with his bare hands? And your plan is to blackmail this person?
Not a great plan.
He is a part of a select few of movie characters for me who I just really want to punch in the face.
I will straight up punch you in the face if you notch it up straight up.
There is...
And I think Nolan really knew what he was doing when it came to directing scenes that required a lot of tension and suspense, because through the editing and the camera work and the amazing score by Hans Zimmer, oh my god, I love that score so much, it gives me chills every time. And one of the reasons that I love this film so much is its balance of big, epic action set pieces that just keep you at the edge of your seat and just give you goosebumps, and these small, intimate scenes where you learn about these characters and they get fleshed out and you see them as humans and you see them make tough decisions. And I feel like Nolan really understands the balance of those two aspects of the movie. This film is also a really good example of a director who has genuine understanding of the characters and the material that he's working with. Now I'm going to talk about one of the most iconic and one of my favorite sort of car chase scenes of all time, which is obviously the famous car chase scene from The Dark Knight. It is directed so well. I said in my Batman Begins review again that even though Nolan may not be the best director when it comes to up-close hand-to-hand combat fight scenes, he really knows how to construct an incredible action set piece from afar. And that is incredibly evident in this scene because it's so exciting and so energetic and so fun. And again, one of the things that I really like about this film is that even though it is a serious crime drama, there's still that sense of excitement and that sense of fun that you want from a Batman film. And I think that Nolan really understands that, which is why scenes like this happen. I mean, it's just so exciting seeing all that practical effects and the Batmobile and then turning into the Batpod. And obviously you get the helicopter getting trapped in those like metal wire stuff. And then the truck flip, which apparently was done in practical, which is incredibly impressive. And then you get this incredible moment between Joker and Batman, and the first time you really get to see Joker test Batman. And I think this is one of the few times that Batman truly feels challenged, and it was just amazing. And obviously ending the scene with Gordon's return was so satisfying. That scene leads to probably the most iconic scene in the film, and the scene where you truly get to see Heath Ledger's Oscar-winning performance and Christian Bale's absolutely amazing performance, and that is obviously the interrogation scene. This scene is constructed so perfectly, and this is when you truly understand the character of the Joker and his motivations, and you really get to see Batman on edge. You really get to see Batman sort of become challenged, and you really get to see him freak out, which is not something Batman does. And that's why the dynamic between the Joker and Batman works so well. It is because the Joker and Batman are polar opposites. This is like the first time in the Dark Knight trilogy where you truly get to see Batman break down, and you really get to see him vulnerable and at a psychological low point. And only a character like the Joker and only a performance like Heath Ledger could do that. And you know that scene where Joker says this?
I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it.
Yeah. That actually happens in the movie. In this scene, you actually get to see the Joker act like a dog in a car. I'm just saying, that's a little nuance that most people may not have noticed. And moments like this is literally why The Dark Knight is one of the greatest films of all time. Also, I feel like Michael Caine as Alfred, I think that he's great in all three films, but I think The Dark Knight out of all three films is the film where you truly get to see Alfred's character and the one where you get to see him make the tough decisions. And Michael Caine really does such a great job of being sort of the moral compass of Bruce Wayne. And in this film, when you truly get to see Batman put to the test, you have to see Alfred become that much stronger in order to help support the character of Bruce Wayne. And Michael Caine and Christian Bale are just bouncing off each other so well, and you really feel like these guys have known each other their entire lives. And I just love that about the way these characters are written and acted. Because in the comics, the Joker is this really well-dressed guy, but in this one, he is technically sort of a well-dressed guy, but he kind of has this slimy, dirty feeling to him. And if I saw someone like that on the street, I would genuinely be terrified, because that is the effect that the Joker's look is meant to give off. Also, Nolan said that when he was developing the character with Heath Ledger, they looked at Malcolm McDowell's performance in A Clockwork Orange, and I feel like that's quite evident in the film. He's this guy who's just completely unpredictable, but yet so in control of himself. And again, Heath Ledger's acting really shows that. And I really love how the big set piece in the third act is not some big fat CGI battle, and it's really Batman and Joker, these two characters fighting for the heart of Gotham. And also the final scene with Gordon and Harvey Dent and Batman and Gary Oldman. This is when Gary Oldman really gets to shine. Gary Oldman's performance in this film, especially that final scene, is Oscar worthy, is absolutely breathtaking, absolutely phenomenal. And when Two-Face dies and Batman runs away from the police and Gordon's giving that speech to his son, it gives me goosebumps every time I watch it. And that is the perfect ending to a perfect movie that I am going to give a big fat A+. Guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, sorry I'm a bit late on this upload. I've been away for a while, but I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Thank you.